Well, it looks like we are probably live. Get that green light. Okay, there we go. Hi, guys. Max here. It is, let's see, it's the 25th of April, going on 7 o'clock Mountain Time. The reason I'm on tonight is different. I was thinking about a few friends I lost in the Twin Towers collapse during the 911 tragedy. And I was thinking about this and what an absolutely avoidable disaster it was. It was a dark day in American history, and for more than just a few reasons. I want to go over it. I guess the title of tonight's rant is going to be 911, the aftermath, a president's hand in disaster. Are you ready for it? Okay, here we go. Fact number one. George W. Bush, president at the time, was warned by the FBI, the CIA, the NSA. They told him there was increasing chatter in communications, and they had said something really bad was in the wind. The strongest hint they had was in New York, so of course, what did George W. do? Our double-digit IQ president? He ignored it. He moved on. He moved on to more important things like trying to get the American people to tolerate him. Anyway, with the combined intelligence community giving him evidence, submitting this to the White House, it was ignored. Was it ignored because he's something less than a genius? Or was it ignored because this dullard was complicit? You know, complicit, right? That means part of the problem. Oh, anyway. Bush saw the evidence. Bush did nothing. And I think, my opinion, he was complicit. He was part of the planning, part of the operation, part of the horrors that occurred after 911. I've spoken with some retired members of the intelligence community, nameless for obvious reasons, and they say that 911 was due to presidential incompetence and direct involvement. They feel in their hearts that George W. Bush was at the heart of the 9/11 disasters. Only a year earlier, deep state skull and bones conspirator, yes, Bush, and others drafted the Patriot Act. And they gave it a look. Other congressmen and senators saw it and said, no way in hell. This Patriot Act was drafted to give the government Nazi-esque powers, totally trashing the Constitution. Bush is an admitted Skull and Bones member. And he was an early proponent of this bill even before he became president. How is it they write such a critical bill in advance of the disaster? Because both are man-made and both come from the same damn source, in my opinion. But then, after he was basically told kiss my ass by members of Congress and Senate, he became the president. Now he had the power and the influence that he needed to ramrod this thing through. I swear to God. And he took the Patriot Act and he ran it up their keisters. We'll get back to that in a little bit because we already know that as president he conned, cajoled, threatened, and bullshit his way through this. Let's begin with 9/11. Allegedly, Bush is one of the architects of 911. According to structural engineers, the Twin Towers fell in their own footprints. Understand, they fell straight down, not sideways, not inwards, not outwards, dead into the footprint, into the foundation. And I've spoken with structural engineers. They said this could only have happened with a series of controlled explosions in an expertly executed demolition. They said you couldn't pay for a cleaner job. How about Building 7? Remember that one? Oh, yeah, Building 7. That one fell at the end of a warning countdown. You know, watch the CNN footage. You hear Clear in 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I mean, come on. How many terrorists do you know that give a countdown to their bombings? Check out the CNN footage. It's still available. How about the Pentagon? Remember that one? Well, ballistics experts say it was struck not by an airliner, but an air-to-surface missile. They went through thorough evidence. They checked videos and film and went out and tested the dirt, everything. And they said that this impact's footprint could only be that of an air-to-surface missile strike. Well, gee, who's flying aircraft with missiles under their belly? Oh, the government. Well, what about that, huh? Let's move along. How about the airliner that crashed into a farmer's field because all of the brave passengers fought the terrorists and dove the plane into the field to save the lives of countless other Americans? According to communications specialists, there is fraud afoot. Early claims that passengers made phone calls from the plane warning that it had been hijacked. These claims have been debunked. Allegedly, passengers spoke of the takeover in mid-flight. They opened up their cell phones and they talked at 32,000 feet. Even though the NATSB, that's the National Air Transportation Safety Board, determined that the crash had been thwarted, by these brave citizens. Not the case. Hint, cell phones don't work at 32,000 feet, which is where the FAA says the plane was when the phone calls started coming in. No, cell towers do not work at 32,000 feet, especially with analog phones of the day. Here's a discrepancy that seems to have passed most of you by. Huh? You can't even do it now with a digital phone, but that's another matter. Looking back to George W. Bush's probable involvement, soon after the coordinated attacks on the farmer's field, on the Pentagon, on Building 7, on the towers, okay? Bush attacked Congress and Senate. He bullied them into passing it. He threatened them. Senate and Congress were threatened. Maybe even, it is alleged, the lives of their families were threatened if they didn't vote for this Patriot Act. Well, today the word patriot is probably the most overused word in the American lexicon. Talk about blind ignorance and even blinder obedience. With his newly formed DHS, Department of Homeland Security, his new Gestapo, and the TSA, Transportation Security Agency, he now had a chokehold on all air and sea travel within, to, and from the United States, and he had the power to pick up anybody who said anything, any shit at all he didn't like, get them disappeared to Guantanamo or Zagreb or Bratislava, one of the many places we rendition people. Well, here we go. He's got his TSA, he's got his Homeland Security, but he needed a villain because Americans wanted to blame somebody for the attacks, especially on the Twin Towers. Well, knowing that if they look long enough, hard enough, they'll probably find his sorry ass. Huh? What do? You invent an enemy. You find somebody. Because Americans were still shell-shocked. The yellow streak was growing up their back fast and becoming a permanent fixture. So, without George W. Bush, okay, understand, without George W. Bush's accused father's former victim, Saddam Hussein, he'd have had nobody. But you remember his daddy, George Herbert Walker Bush? Right, in the original Iraq attack, when they went into Operation Desert Shield and then Desert Storm, all based on rumors carefully planted by the United States government and a complicit media. Right, we attacked an innocent nation. They had nothing to do with what we were attacking them for, but hey, that was then, but now it's 911. It's only a year since Daddy bombed and blew the hell out of Iraq. Now, why not blame them again? Why not? We showed that with Desert Shield and Desert Storm, we could attack a vastly less populated, less trained, less equipped people. The loss of life was tragic beyond description. We lost lives in an empty and meaningless assault on a non-involved nation. Information about the invasion was heavily censored, released only to those members of the media willing to go along with and lie without conscience. All of this in support of George Herbert Walker Bush. Well, Bush Jr., that's George W., his little bastard, was ready once again to invade Iraq because he said, they did it. Trust me, I have evidence. I won't show you, but trust me. Those are two words very few presidents can ever utter without laughing inside. He presented more lies than even his father had. His administration allegedly created false evidence to convince and confuse a gullible American people. Subsequent wars there and in Afghanistan have maimed, disfigured, murdered thousands of our brave young men and women. You can blame George W. Bush, a man worthy of being tried for crimes against humanity, in my opinion. As a United States Marine, I salute all of our young men and women in uniform. I offer a kiss my ass to anybody named Bush and all those legislators and media whores who not only allowed this travesty, but endorsed it. Yeah, I'm Max, and that's the way I see it.